event has anything to do with people gathering that want to know something about money in the world, he's one of the people that because he's a big resource to promote the event. He has a great ratio of selling the audience, even if he's a speaker in a 3-day event. So he has a big draw to him. Well, those are the kinds of things, like I mentioned to you that I wanted to be speaking in Australia, and I use social media to do interesting. So I could speak every day here in the Bay Area. There's 4,500 organizations that have a meeting in the Bay Area alone.
Right.
And I can make more than enough money to live on, but I like the idea of going out into the world and expanding my audience and
absolutely
finding out what else is out there. So
I
created this. You can go to my website and there's tons of audio and tons of free stuff on my website. And this wonderful woman said she listened to all my audio, she read my blogs, and she wanted to speak personally. And I said, great, when are you going to do this? She said, I can't afford to do that. And I said, well, where do you live? And she happens to live in Sydney. And I said, okay, let me tell you how we can do this. I want you to set up a speaking engagement for me. And I laid it all out, detail by detail. And she said, so now we're just waiting for the dates. And then in the meantime, there's been 2 others who are, one is in Melbourne and one in, I forget the other city. Anyway, I'm going to be in Australia, spend 2 weeks there, speak 3 times, and make $15,000 plus my travel expenses. And that's the kind of thing that I show people how to do. There's no reason, when we think about, the economy and what's going on out there, and I'm always telling people, because my primary business for almost 18 years has been teaching entrepreneurs best business practices, and I ask them, do you think that somebody came along, scraped up all the money, put it in a vault, and locked it away until somebody finally decided we're not in session? The fact is, the money's out there regardless of what's going on. So it's repositioning.
Right.
Making sure that people know where the money is due to be able to create what they're thought of as the expert. And that's what I love to have our authors do.
Cool. Wow. Well, I'm signed up. I'm just waiting for the money to get here so I could do the work with Sharon and get the book published and get it up and running and get it going. Because I was definitely thinking about that the other day, especially with Lillian saying that, I'd love to not only publish the book, but have major speaking engagements, all over the place about the book and the trans-channeling work that I'm doing and all that. So that in time when we get to that point.
That's the thing. I mean, you've already got a following there in Las
Vegas.
Cool. And that's what it would be like to be able to go into any community.
And it looks like there's more people here. What's that?
Yeah, and just imagine that you could go to any community and to be able to create that kind of a following.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to do, is I want to not only go all over the country here, but also go to, Mexico, Central America, South America, Australia, New Zealand, all over the place.
Yeah, you'll have to go to God.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome to go to Brazil and see John of God. Yeah, that would be an exciting thing. So
it's actually a whole different way of life. It's kind of like being a rock star, being so you have. I mean, not that rock stars aren't but not everybody can be a rock star. But when you're speaking from your heart and you write from your heart, I have 2 new clients back in Boston that's starting to work with, and he was saying that his wife was picking apart his writing, and I said, why? And he said, she says I write like I talk. And I said, that's what engages people. So trying to help people learn that this is just the most amazing thing when you can read somebody's story and it sounds like they're talking to you. That's what makes the difference between a good author.
Right. Well, I must have a natural talent, even though and that's the other thing that Sharon and I talked about that I want to share with the audience, because, there's so many people out there that because of their learning disabilities or whatever, they don't feel like they can actually that's what always stopped me, Sharon, to be honest with you, is that I'm severely dyslexic, and I found out that Sharon is too. Guess what, Coach Steve? You got two dyslexic people.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. That's such a challenge.
And what's funny is, my whole life, it's really interesting. This is a funny story. I was probably in my late 20s, I was probably 28 when I had this lady in San Diego do basically a numerology reading for me, a very in-depth one. And she was probably like 60 or 70 at the time. And she had a great reputation. It was pretty phenomenal. And the only thing that I remember about this reading that was so powerful is she said that later on in my life, I would be a really well-known author. And I was like, I looked at her and I said, you gotta be kidding me. With my dyslexia? You're out of your mind, lady.
We had exactly the same experience. I was told 1991 that I would be writing books, and I said no. I wouldn't even entertain it, absolutely. And then 11 years later that I released the first book.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's so funny. Don't let that stop you. Actually, Sharon.
There to plant seed or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I know the wrong seed was planted in me, about being dyslexic and all that. And what's amazing is Sharon will actually teach you how to write your book in about, 6 weeks? Right. Which is pretty phenomenal.
1 hour a day.
1 hour a day. And I actually wrote my book. I did write my book in 6 weeks. I had 8 chapters. I was going to do 10 chapters, but because I was told by this person that does editing that, Hay House only will accept books that have 44,000 words, and mine was already up to the limit. So we did 8 chapters, and I actually did that under 6 weeks. I did that. I really love doing it, though. I was doing it on the weekend. I would start at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening and go all the way to about 12 o'clock midnight. And that book got written very fast. It was pretty awesome. So
you're like me, the burn midnight oil just to get it done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really wanted to get this message out and get it completed and done and off my... and there's many other books that are in the works that I want to write and put out. But first, let's get this one published and get it marketed properly, and do what you're saying to do. And then I can go ahead and write the next book, And since I have an unlimited amount of information that's coming through me, because I'm a trans channel like Esther Hicks, I don't have writer's block. It's kind of interesting. What's that, sir?
Do we have questions from a caller?
Yeah, actually, we have Chris. Chris, are you on?
I am on, Sonia.
Cool. How are you? Chris
Good.
Is one of our other hosts on his show, his health show, and I'm sure you have some questions for Sharon, so please go ahead.
That I do. Sharon, I have been doing some looking, sort of informally or part-time, just looking at publishing. I've got several manuscripts, and I've self-published a couple of ebooks on my website, and I want to take it a lot further, but I've been looking into a few things, and I wanted to know what you thought of the print-on-demand publishing services. Is that something you recommend, or is it worth it?
Print-on-demand for, I would first 5 runs of 100. So one of the things I teach my authors is to not print 5,000 books off the gate. Too many people end up with, a couple thousand books in their garage for 20 years. And so you can use, there's a couple of really ones out there. I would not suggest a company like Lightning Source. They're very hard to deal with. There's a number of companies out there that, I've tried about 20 different ones just so that I have a good sampling. And so here's what I do. I have 100 books. I pass them out to friends. I do some speaking. I ask people to give me